The ATP Finals was an absolute banger. Alcaraz played as if he had a point to prove on indoor hard courts. Sinner dominated Turin like he owned the place.
It is back-to-back titles for Sinner in Turin.
And Felix, oh, suddenly he remembered how good he was.
Felix Auger-Aliassime holds his nerve.
But for the Americans, it was a complete letdown to say the least. After yet another video game final between the new two on Sunday, last week made one thing clear about the Sincaraz era. As we've come to expect in the last couple of years, the GOAT decided to have some fun by not confirming his presence in Turin. As a result, Musetti was forced to compete in Athens in an attempt to make the final spot in Turin, which inevitably meant that Felix Auger-Aliassime was also stuck in limbo. Not to mention the tournament organizers having to tweak their plans and Fritz getting a more complicated schedule. One man holding everyone hostage. But hey, he's the greatest of all time, so of course he's earned the right to do whatever the heck he wants, right? Well, if you've been following the trend, this really shouldn't have come as a surprise. Novak decided to play in Athens, his new home, where he took down a stubborn Musetti in 3 sets. A 101st title and the oldest ATP champion at 38 years and 5 months for Nole. Just look what it meant to him. Only after this moment did Djokovic confirm his withdrawal from Turin. Perfect timing. Yeah, the fans were having none of it. Anyways, the first thing to know about the Sincaraz era is that Novak has doubts about winning slams against them.
Yes, I do have more doubts that I can win slams, particularly against these two guys.
But it's not just Djokovic. Zverev missed just 9 first serves all match against Sinner, but still lost in straights to the Italian. Perhaps Sasha's placement isn't where it needs to be to trouble the best returner in the world, who was also having a field day on the first serve. The implication, Zverev doesn't have any edge whatsoever in his matchup against Sinner. Little wonder why he's lost his last 5 matches against the Italian. Zverev was no match for Sinner's linear power and soft touch.
Oh, that is a classy finish.
Also, Jannik finding his best serves on big points and saving 7 out of 7 break points made Zverev want to eat his racket. But then, Zverev thinks that despite the scoreline, the match was really close.
The score was 6-4 to 3, but I felt like the match was closer than the score.
But was it really that close? I'll leave it up to you guys to decide. With 1 win and 1 loss in his first 2 matches, Zverev had high hopes of meeting Sinner again to get his revenge.
Listen, I hope to see him again. It's as simple as that this week.
But he got his butt kicked by Felix in straights, which begs the question, behind Sincaraz, who really is the 3rd best player in the world when Djokovic isn't playing? A fully fit Draper unfortunately sounds like the fairy tale. Zverev, meanwhile, finishes the year as number 3, holding on to his Australian Open finalist points, and he'll likely have a hard time defending those points. Some fans don't even consider him to be number 3. Felix Auger-Aliassime has been on fire, but still isn't an elite returner, and, okay, let's just talk about Felix while we're at it. I'll be honest, the final round-robin match between Zverev and FAA wasn't exactly of the highest quality. Breakpoints weren't getting converted, and both players struggled to find consistency at times. However, Felix's forehand was enough to do the damage in the first set after saving breakpoints in the previous game.
Yes, what a terrific way.
The second set was scrappy. Zverev appeared frustrated with his struggles and frequently gestured to his team, while Auger-Aliassime was wasteful with his openings on the return. In the end, Felix produced a rock-solid performance amid Zverev errors in the tiebreak for his 50th win of the season and a top 5 debut. Going from world number 27 on August 25th to number 5 in just 2.5 months speaks volumes about a man who just seemingly rediscovered himself.
If you had to resume your season, what would it be?
I think back where I belong, I think.
And just to remind y'all of some of his season's highlights, 3 titles this year, 40 hardcourt wins this season, the first Canadian man in the Open era to manage multiple 50-win seasons at the ATP level in 2022 and 2025. Oh, and he led the tour in tiebreak wins with 32 and deciding set victories with 20. It's time to give my man the credit he deserves. Guys, if you want to see a deep dive on FAA, let me know in the comments. Just like Felix Auger-Aliassime, Alex de Minaur also lost his first 3 sets of the ATP Finals. But somehow, he also ended up making it to the semis. To kick off his campaign, de Minaur gave Alcaraz a lot of headache in the first set, coming back from 4-1, love 40 down to level the scores.
Got him on the move.
Alcaraz then edged the Aussie in a super competitive tiebreak where de Minaur was up 5-3.
Alcaraz survives.
The Demon, however, faded off in the second set. Long story short, despite taking advantage of the court surface, de Minaur's returning skills couldn't withstand the firepower from Alcaraz. Then followed the heartbreak against Musetti in a middleweight clash where de Minaur served for the match but just couldn't close it out. You could see nerves all over de Minaur as he ended up getting broken.
And he's broken.
And with the Italian crowd firmly behind Musetti, de Minaur saw a golden opportunity for a first win in Turin slip through his hands. And here's how he felt after the match. But hey, it's always darkest before the dawn. After going 0-5 in his first 5 matches in Turin and losing his last 16 matches against the top 10, the Demon came up with the perfect response. A straight sets win against Taylor, which set him up for a semifinal place, and a first top 10 win since Roland Garros 2024. How did de Minaur beat Fritz, you might be wondering? He made peace with his tough losses and just kept swinging against Fritz. It was one of the most aggressive matches I've seen de Minaur play.
What a hit.
And it paid off. But after the Demon exercised his own demons, he ran into the Boogeyman, a player he's now 0-13 against. De Minaur played out of his skin, but this one point summarizes de Minaur's limitations against Sincaraz. How do you hit 3 potential winners but still get past? You've got to be kidding me. De Minaur is a top dog, but his lack of a weapon that gives him free points will always put a hard cap on his ceiling. Sorry, Massimo, I know you're a big fan, but we've got to be real here. I just don't see how the Demon gets past these guys with his limited firepower, which actually brings us to the third thing about Sincaraz. You have to be able to hang in with them in the power department off both wings, and so far, not many players have been able to do that. But what do I know? The Demon says he knows how to beat Jannik. I guess we'll see what he's got cooking.
Even though a lot of people may not think so, I know how to beat him. It's just not that easy to do.
Okay, so for the first time in 2 decades, half the field at the ATP Finals was made up of players from outside of Europe. For Shelton, it was a rough initiation on his tournament debut. An 0-3 record for Big Ben. All 3 matches had a tiebreak which he lost, and he ends the year knowing that despite being a Masters 1000 champion and a top 5 player, he still has a lot of runway to improve his game if he's going to compete with Sinner and Alcaraz for the big titles. 8 consecutive losses to Sinner speaks volumes. Shelton finishes the season with a 40-24 record, which is solid considering the shoulder injury and the loss of momentum that followed after the US Open. As an unapologetic fan, I still love the energy from Ben though. But what about Fritz? If you had told me that Fritz wasn't going to make it past the group stage after his performance against Alcaraz, I wouldn't have believed it. But since my prediction game is so bad and I can't even predict what happens to bread when you put it in a toaster, I'll be damned if Fritz beats Sinner and Alcaraz en route to a Grand Slam title. And my reasons aren't far-fetched. Taylor's serve has massively improved over this time, which is part of why his ranking has held up. However, it's his returning numbers that have kept him from taking the next step needed in his career. Whether it's his relative lack of athleticism or the fact that he's facing more and more players at the very top, Taylor's drop in break percentage since 2022 leaves a lot for us to talk about. Taylor finishes the season as the #1 American for the 5th consecutive year. An American man hasn't won the ATP Finals since 1999, and with this version of Fritz not even getting past the group stage, the future for American men at the ATP Finals looks grim. All because of Sincaraz, I suppose. It's their fault. Is there a chance in the near future? I don't know.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Anyway, Fritz snapped a 3-match losing streak to Musetti, so let's get that out of the way. First, he had to compete in Athens, then fly to Turin with barely any rest. I thought Musetti was going to be the punching bag of the group due to fatigue, but still, he found a way to treat us to some spectacular passing shots. And the best of the bunch? Match point against the Demon.
He's done it. What a way to finish it.
A first and top 10 breakthrough in 2025. What a year. Unfortunately, his elegant one-handed backhand is always going to be eaten up by Sinkaraz. And now over to the big boys, who are playing their final clash of their epic 2025 seasons. With Sinner and Alcaraz bulldozing everyone in front of them, the final of the ATP Finals wasn't just tennis. It was mayhem waiting to happen. Alcaraz had survived some of the most awkward questions at the press conferences.
Your heart has been taken. Are you free? Your heart is free or taken?
No, I'm free.
Okay.
All the way to taking down a resurgent Felix in the semis, a match where he fired bazookas with endless backhands down the line, 10% above his own average. And an insane forehand cross-court at the most acute angles. Alcaraz's level was so high, I honestly thought it was one of the best matches he's played all year. To me, he's definitely proven his level on indoor hard courts. But after his 71st win of the year and 17th top 10 win of 2025 came a familiar foe in Jannik Sinner. Sinner had reached the final without even dropping a serve, and a lot was on the line for both men. 6 major finals against each other in a span of 6 months. And with the pressure on Sinner this time, given that he was at home, was on an indoor hardcourt streak, and even more importantly, behind in their head-to-head, the Italian just had to deliver. The match came down to tiny margins, and it was safe to say at this point that regardless of the surface, the Sinner-Alcaraz matchup is dead even in many ways. For most of their rivalry, Alcaraz excelled by being unpredictable and still really clutch in the most important moments, but on Sunday, it felt like Sinner was out-Alcarazing Alcaraz with the variety and unpredictability. Things kicked off in the first set with Sinner redlining from the baseline with a mix of Carlos-like artistry under the lights. With the scores even at 4-all, Alcaraz started touching his hamstring and took a timeout after holding to go up 5-4. But then came some of the best points at 6-5 as Alcaraz tried to force the action against Jannik. A sublime drop shot
It's exquisite.
followed by a sensational drop volley off the backhand created set point for Carlitos.
Oh, another brilliant.
But Sinner decided to erase that set point with an ice-cold 117-mile-per-hour second serve. Talk about playing your best tennis when it matters most. Then came the first set tiebreak. At 1-all in the tiebreak, Jannik went for another outrageous second serve to go up 2-1. And then deep into the tiebreak, Sinner showed a lot more variety. He attempted a drop shot, lobbed Alcaraz twice,
Got him again.
before putting an exclamation mark on the first set with an unreturned serve out wide.
The first set goes the way of Jannik Sinner.
In 2 words, unbelievable guts. The atmosphere inside the stadium, however, quickly changed at the start of the second set when Alcaraz became the first player to break Sinner's serve all tournament. Now, Jannik did hit 2 double faults in the game as Alcaraz gained some footing.
And he's missed this time.
But Sinner rallied to break back at 3-all after a slice of luck after framing a return.
And he's got him. He breaks.
And after absorbing everything Alcaraz threw at him for the remainder of the set, Sinner upped his aggression once again and stole it at the death at 6-5, with Alcaraz serving to stay in the set. A 2-hour, 15-minute victory for the Italian, a 24th title, and 15 consecutive wins to wrap up the year. The 31-match indoor winning streak continues for Sinner, with his last indoor defeat coming against Novak Djokovic in the final in Turin 2 years ago. At 24 years old, Sinner is also the youngest man to defend the ATP Finals since Roger Federer in 2004. And do I even have to mention that he hasn't even dropped a single set the entire time? When you think about the fact that from 1987 to 2023, no single man has won the event without dropping a set, it just puts into perspective how dominant Sinner has been at the event. Going a little deeper into the X's and O's, what really happened in the final? Sinner was 7 for 8 at the net, and it was Alcaraz who had the inferior numbers, going 6 for 12 at the net. Sinner was also going bigger on second serves, and safe to say, it paid off. But speaking of the serves, let's dig in a little more. Remember, Sinner's serve was subpar at the US Open, so he decided to make some tweaks to it. Since Beijing, his deuce-side first serve distribution has leaned a lot more towards the tee. Looking at the first serve percentage in their recent head-to-head, we see the first serve is often a strong indicator of who's more likely to win. Alcaraz had the better first serve percentages in Rome, Roland Garros, and at the US Open, all of which he won. Sinner, on the other hand, served way better at Wimbledon. However, he bucked that trend at the ATP Finals with inferior numbers on the first serve percentage, which actually makes splitting hairs between both men a futile attempt. What does Sinner need to do to improve his first serve percentage against Alcaraz in particular? I have no idea. Jannik still trails 6-10 in their head-to-head, but his Wimbledon and ATP Finals win suggests that Alcaraz is no longer going to have it so easy against the Italian. If there's any part of Alcaraz's game that's come under scrutiny the most, it's probably his performance on indoor hard courts. However, this tournament shows that Alcaraz has taken giant leaps on the faster indoor hard court conditions. Alcaraz has tweaked a lot of things in 2025. His serve, forehand, and backhand for starters, and he's evolved to become even more complete than he already is. His transition game let him down on Sunday, though. A lot of missed volleys, getting passed so many times at the net. Man, it was very unlike Carlos. He's the king of the forecourt. Did the right thigh bother him? I think so, although Alcaraz says it didn't. So Carlos and Jannik have played 3,302 points over the course of their rivalry, and the number of points won between them is dead even. Alcaraz's numbers for the year have been incredible, and ending the year as world number 1 was huge for him. Plus, his 12,050 points this season makes him the 5th man with the most points in ATP history, only behind the Big Four. Literally. And what about Sinner? Man, the last 24 months have been historic. Take a look at his win percentage and see how it stacks up against the all-time greats. His numbers are otherworldly for a man who missed 3 months and many crucial tournaments this season. And here's one more stat to drive you crazy. Sinner has won his last 27 matches against top 10 players not named Alcaraz. With 14 titles and 4 majors shared between them, the Sinner-Alcaraz rivalry has the potential to become the greatest the sport has ever seen. There's daylight between these guys and the rest of the pack, and so far, no other player has really come close. Both men have pushed each other to become better versions of themselves, and their ability to adapt their games on the fly is what makes them better than everyone else. I can't wait to see what 2026 brings for us. If you're a fan of both men, then you're probably pumped like me. But if you're a top player like Tsitsipas, you're probably wishing it's 2019 all over again.
Stefanos Tsitsipas is the 2019 Nitto ATP Finals champion.
Guys, if you loved this video, be sure to like and subscribe. I really can't thank all of you enough for all the support you've given me this year. I've been working on some ideas in the background that I can't wait to share with all of you over the next few weeks. Think collaborations with creators you may know, and also I've been trying to find some answers to questions that I've had from around the tennis world. All that's coming your way, and so much more. And until next time, keep going for the lines.